Welcome to the 13th episode of Junto Club. On this episode, we start with a quote from Benjamin Franklin taking aim at smartasses before spending most of the episode on energy and the energy crisis. For any questions, comments, or if you're a high school science teacher who can help Shu out, email juntoclubpodcast@gmail.com. This is Junto Club.
Junto Club.
Okay, welcome to the 13th meeting of the Junto Club on March 5th, 2021. So in the 1700s, Benjamin Franklin organized a group of his friends to create a club for mutual improvement. Inspired by this Junto Club, we're trying to kind of follow in the tradition and look to discuss topics around science, philosophy, politics, business, really anything in an effort to kind of improve ourselves, learn a little more, challenge our beliefs and so on. And as for today, our main topic will be power and energy, both kind of what happened in Texas recently and renewables. She's going to talk about that a decent bit. But first, Biden is apparently going to try the Heartland visa. So, several episodes ago, we talked about a book called 1 Billion Americans, and we discussed like a policy idea called Heartland visas, where you take immigrants and you make them live in the cities that have like declined population. Because something I think most people don't realize, at least I didn't know, was that most cities are actually declining in population, the majority of cities in the U.S. And you have these big coastal cities, and a few Sunbelt cities are growing and have a housing shortages and huge economic growth. And so that's what we think about a lot because that's where everyone's going to. But the more cities are declining. So these Heartland visas are basically the attempt to bring in immigration, to allow immigration into the places you need, where these people are just like limited. Basically, they got to live there for like 3 to 5 years. Then they get like a full green card that lets them move anywhere. So it's not like a permanent thing, but they got to do some temporary time in the Midwest or whatever.
So what do you mean by they're trying it? Is trying it?
I think what I read was they are going to do sort of like a pilot test of like 10,000 people, roughly. So that's not enough to make like a change to the economic situation of Nebraska, Michael's least favorite state in the country.
Yeah, I haven't done my due diligence and looked up facts to support my hatred for the state.
But 10,000 people, you can see how people like it, like the people who are on the visas. You can see how some towns deal with it if they like it. And you can also see like, you can start to get some numbers on, okay, this many people ended up like settling down in the place they were. This many people just waited and as soon as possible moved to New York or San Diego or XYZ large city that already has ample population. So it's kind of, like I said, as a pilot test, they can get some more information about it. Ideally, in like 5 years, they'll have some positive results and they'll start expanding it to, be like a serious thing in terms of scale.
Sounds like the Biden administration have been listening to Junto Club.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. So Biden, I know you're listening. Next on the list, carbon tax and dividend. Do it.
Sounds good. So everybody can just apply and then come in here and work in a location and then become a citizen in the future?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know that level of details, but let's say the pilot's a success. I think potentially it's an avenue for opening more possible ways for people to immigrate, right? Like as an option for people who want to come that maybe couldn't get in through the other processes. It's like, okay, I'll do this Heartland thing and I'll go to some small, breadbasket city and, help their declining population out.
Yeah, that's good. But I mean, so right now, recently there's a news about illegal immigrants try to cross the border, Mexican border, right? That usually happens when there's a Democrat assume the White House, right? You just have all those immigrants try to come in, right? So do you think that's a problem?
Not really.
Why not?
Why is it a problem?
I mean, it's illegal crossing.
I don't know. I mean, illegal immigration doesn't seem to cause that many, if any, problems. I mean, there's even some economic benefits from them. So,
Gotcha.
obviously we should fix our immigration system and try to address these sort of issues, but it's not like a high priority to me.
Okay.
I'm not quaking over Hispanic immigrants crossing the southern border.
I'm just wondering, are we really going to have to wait like 5 years though for a small pilot, to have 10,000 isn't even really like a good power when you're dealing with the number of cities that need people. And
remember, I assume, again, these are details I haven't looked into that much, but I assume the Heartland visas, it's got to be at least 3 years that you need to stay in an area, right? So to get the test along with setting it up and getting people in, they need to wait for the duration of the visa to end so they can then see what people do afterwards.
Right.
So, it's going to be at the fastest possible 4 years, right? Just to get things going, get people in for several years, see what they do. Because I assume that's an important part of what they want to test.
Sure. Sure. No, it makes sense. I guess I'm just wondering if you could be clever about your study design, expedite it. But...
Yeah, because if you did it just for a year or something, that would be, you'd miss the point, right? Well, I guess the one possibility is even after a year, a majority of the people stayed, and then you'd say, well, you don't even need them to stay that long, but.
Right.
If it's a short duration and most people leave, you might just be like, well, yeah, the point was to have them stay for long enough, right? So kind of waste your time.
No, I was thinking about potentially just having a certain number issued for so people who finish higher on the point system need to stay for a year. People who finish like a sliding window and for the number of points you have for good good immigration score, you get a 1 year requirement, poorer immigration score, you get, a 5 year requirement. And, you could stratify and see, you also get more information that way about if the different groups are moving in different ways and stuff like that. But yeah.
So the less attractive your immigrant resume is, the longer you're trapped in Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. It's just, yeah, but I guess if they just want to do the simple, straightforward way.
Okay. All right, Mike.
More data
how are you scoring? You scoring by intelligence?
Intelligence, youth, health.
All right. That's
skills.
Good. That directly lead me to the quote for the day from Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
He says, quote, "There are no fools so troublesome as those that have wit." What does that mean?
This is.
You want to go, Mike?
Well, I was just gonna say, you've always seen the studies and advice they give to teachers in schools. Oftentimes that the students who are most intelligent or are geniuses, where they essentially they get bored in class, so they turn to causing trouble because of their boredom. So that's something I've seen. But
I think this is Benjamin Franklin basically discovering the Dunning-Kruger effect a couple of centuries ahead.
Who is that?
The Dunning-Kruger effect is, I would have thought, a well-known cognitive bias where when people learn a little bit about a topic, they think they're an expert because they've learned a little bit, but they don't realize how much they don't know. So I think the detail was if you looked at how much people practiced or learned something, and then you looked at how they rated their skill, it goes up. As you get a little bit, it goes way up, and then as you get better, it drops down because you start to realize oh, actually there's so much more that I don't know. And then as you go to true mastery, it goes back up. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is kind of that early peak where people don't realize how much they don't know about something. Yeah.
Almost overconfident with a little bit of knowledge in a way.
Yes, exactly.
And also there's a study that shows everybody thinks they are above average, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Right.
Can you repeat the quote, Shu?
"There are no fools so troublesome as those that have wit."
Yeah. Okay. I'm familiar with what Matt's talking about, but I guess like that have wit.
Yes.
I mean, so I would say that have, like, smart
Intelligent.
asses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess.
What were you gonna say?
Well, no. I guess it's. I mean, I can see where Matt's coming from. That basically, if you don't know about something, you can be like knowledge in an area gives you modesty. Because, like, as soon as you sort of have enough knowledge about a certain topic to understand the depth of that topic, it's very quick to see that, like, you're not gonna. It's almost impossible to master everything about, like, a certain topic. Mm. Like, that's why a PhD thesis or something like that is so narrow. So, so I guess, like, oftentimes it's the people who are smartasses are the people who don't necessarily have that sort of true understanding of the depth. But I mean, I still hold to that quote also could relate to sort of like people who are in a situation where they may be bored or like, I guess, surrounded by things that's, like, I mean, I like to be a smartass sometimes, so that's why I was thinking about that. So I thought that quote was very relevant.
I picked this quote for you, Mike.
I see.
So,
is it for him or about him?
Both. I think, to me, actually, I think my interpretation of it is that the people you need to be careful of are the smart people, right? The intelligent. If you're gonna work with people, right? Do you rather work with someone who has like 2,000 points of IQ points, but who has like, it's a crook, right? Who has no character? Or you rather work with someone that has, just an average IQ, but has a very good integrity, right? Who would you choose to work with, right? You probably don't want work with the smart people, but has no morals, right? Because they are going to destroy you, right? So you cannot trust those people, right? Because they know how to gain you, right? You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's at least one might take away from that quote, like the intelligence. Like be careful of smart people, I guess, right? People that are smarter than you, but you cannot trust. Right?
All right. So that reminded me, and I know eventually we're supposed to talk about energy on this episode, but what you're talking about, Shu, I think is less about intelligence and more about like empathy. There's this, like in psychology, there's this notion of what's called like a successful psychopath. And basically a successful psychopath is basically someone who lacks, I guess what you would say, emotional empathy. So they have cognitive empathy. They can understand like how a person is feeling, but like when someone is feeling hurt or someone is feeling sad or angry, like they're not as like emotionally responsive to that. And so in the case of a successful psychopath, unsuccessful psychopaths or criminal psychopaths are people who don't have particularly good control over they're very impulsive, right? So like serial killers or like criminals who commit like just any violent crime, really, like they would be considered more like criminal psychopaths. But these successful psychopaths are often like CEOs of companies, and that's because essentially they see a situation that they can take advantage of, and they take advantage of it. Like, even if it hurts other people, because they're not going to be like moved by like, oh, my buddy Joe at the company like has a family, and he needs to take care of his wife and kids, and like I'm gonna take credit for his work so I get the promotion and he doesn't. Like, a lot of people would say like that's a shitty thing to do, and like it's gonna hurt Joe, which causes some feelings of guilt or anxiety or something in them. But a successful psychopath would basically not have that like emotionally empathetic response, and would just be able to do it because it's who's Joe? Like, Joe is someone I can step on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, but I don't think that has as much to do with this quote. But I mean, to me, I think I think I agree with actually, I think Matt's interpretation of that quote is probably more correct. It's like, if you have with little knowledge, you became overconfident and you basically fool yourself in a way, right? So anyway, so let's move on to energy, right?
All
right. Before we go to energy, I've talked, go ahead.
I was just going to say I won. My interpretation was judged by Shu as superior.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is the first quote, at least, where we've disagreed, or had some different interpretations, as opposed to just that's about right.
All right. So before we talk about energy, we need to talk about time management. How do you guys do time management? Do you guys do time management at all?
I badly. I manage my time very poorly.
What about you, Mike?
I'm getting maybe a little bit better at it, but I mean, normally it's just show up every day, work a large amount and get done what I can and just keep showing up. Okay.
The reason I asked that question is because I have a struggle with time management myself. And recently I have heard a different framework that is a little bit different from time management. It's something called energy management, right? So instead of trying to manage time, it's much better to try to manage your energy, right? Because sometimes you might have time to do a lot of stuff. If you, for example, you block out 4 hours to do something, but if you don't have the energy to do it, right, or just block out time to have relaxing time, right? But if you don't have the energy to even relax to do stuff that you intended to do, that time is wasted, right? So another thing is so you can apply that to work, but another thing is you can apply it to relationship as well, right? You have, for example, your friends, you have interaction with them. Is this person give you energy, right? If you're not giving you positive energy, it sucks energy from you. That might not be a good interaction, right? So maybe you should do something about it and stuff like that, right?
No.
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, it makes sense. Really, I mean, obviously time is a limited resource, but I mean, really, you're able to, the key, in short windows of time, it's really your energy, what determines what you can get done and not get done. A lot of the time. I mean, not all the time, but I mean, they're intricately related, right? So
yeah, I assume everyone's had experiences where you've kind of had enough time, but you're just you don't have energy, you're not motivated, and it's just kind of you're really sluggish. And even if you're trying to write something, it's just kind of not going anywhere, and you can just burn.
Yeah.
You can just burn time, not really being productive, especially when it's stuff kind of self-motivated at home style work, which, more people are doing now. It's, it's a little easier when you have a shift you just have to go into and do your task. But so I get what you're saying, but what, when you say manage your energy, do you have some examples of what that means or how you would do that?
Yeah. So one thing that for me personally would be right now, I really focus as I'm getting older, I'm really focused on sleeping, right? So for example, if you want to try to save time, okay, I can have by sleeping, I can get more time by sleeping only 6 or 4 hours, right? But when you wake up, you have you have a lot of time ahead of you during the day, but you're going to feel shitty. You have no concentration. You don't have energy to actually use the time productively. So it's much better to sleep 8 hours as much as you can and just wake up naturally and then have the energy to do the work during the day, right? That's an example that I can think about you can do right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So that's an example. Yeah. All right. So let's get on to let's get into the real energy crisis in Texas. So So what happened? Do you want to guys? Do you know what actually happened in Texas?
Only at the very basic level. You should give a summary, Shu.
Yeah. Well, you should give a summary. I'm not very good at summary.
I don't know enough to give a summary.
Oh, basically, I mean, Texas, I think everybody knows anyway. So basically, Texas, during the winter storm, right, a couple of weeks ago, everybody, the whole state lost power, right? Mm-hmm. So for like few days, so many days, and basically the electrical grid infrastructure failed, right? So yeah, so that's basically what happened.
Was it mostly like, I know at least some people talked about power generation failing, like stuff that couldn't run in the winter, but was it that, or was it a lot of like power lines getting knocked out by ice, or just all of the above?
Not power lines. It's mostly so there are a couple of factors. One is that is you're right. Is the resource they did not plan for it, so they did not have a lot of they don't have enough supply, basically the resource to like the fossil fuels and also the wind, and then of course these turbines are not winterized, so they are not able to run them, right? So they have much lower like supply, and then demand of course during the winter should really high because everybody want to heat their home, so they basically the whole system collapse, right? But most interesting, the root cause of that actually is the privatization of the power infrastructure, right, in the market, right? So that means is that basically capitalism fails in Texas, right? So because they shift it to free market, right? Because they want to have high price to incentivize the power, like the power company, they basically to compete and to actually make sure that they actually could have a good power system. But that did not happen. So basically, capitalism doesn't work.
Those are fighting words, Shu.
Yeah, no. I mean, I guess it makes sense where it's privatized that they wouldn't expend the money to winterize everything or like plan for things like this when it's such a rare case.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I certainly think that's. I don't want like a state-run oil industry. I think we've seen.
Well, yeah, I mean, also one ironic thing is that Texas was actually called the energy capital of the country of U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and he failed, right? So anyway, so it's basically my conclusion is a fail of capitalism, free market, right?
Well, I mean, utilities like power are one of the, premier examples of like things that monopolies form really easily in, right? Because it's like difficult it depends how you set things up, but it's not necessarily easy for new competing people, right? To be able to say, oh, this house is going to buy power from one company, but the house next door is going to buy power from another company. So, I mean, utilities, it varies by states and stuff around the country, but like they are like the go-to example of like, hey, like these are natural monopolies is what they're called, just based on how the market kind of works for this this area.
Okay.
And obviously monopolies are bad. Markets work well when you can have efficient competition. And I don't think you can really do that with power.
Why not? I mean, there are a lot of companies at Texas are doing it, but they're just not incentivized enough for them to. I guess maybe I guess power is hard to compete. Maybe so. Yeah, maybe you are partially right, but yeah. But I mean, if you are purely believing free market, right, theory, then or capitalism, right, it should work, right, but it did not work. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, well, just because something doesn't work in a particular situation doesn't mean it's fundamentally flawed. So.
It is. I mean, for example, like what? So if you have theory about capitalism, right, you should not look for that it works like where it works. You should look for like evidence that disapprove it, right? If you find one thing that prove it to be false, then it's false. The whole theory is false, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
No, I mean that's true. I guess. I mean, I'm not married to any of these arguments, but like, I mean, I guess it's obviously it's not like pure free market.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, it's probably not a pure free market system, but yeah.
It's probably not.
The barrier to entry of those industries is ridiculously high right now. So as Matt said, it's essentially a localized monopoly, which requires some correction.
Say it again?
I said, localized monopolies require some correction. So.
Okay. So I guess So let's go into electricity. I guess. Like, how do you know how? I guess, how electricity are generated in the U.S.?
Benjamin Franklin with a key and a kite.
Are you saying now or saying originally?
Like now, originally, both. I guess you want to go there. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So I guess in the country, in the U.S. right now, because I want to get into it, I guess, like talking about like nuclear energy stuff, right? But just current state, right? Like state of energy generation. Yeah, right.
Number one is natural gas, and then coal, and then nuclear might be third, or is it hydro? I don't know. Then you start getting into the other stuff, but it's mostly natural gas and coal.
Yeah, natural gas and coal, they are both called fossil fuels, right? And those probably like 70, maybe like 50, 50%. And then nuclear is 20% right now. And then the other 20%, I think, is like all these like hydro and all the other renewable energies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize nuclear was already 20%.
Yeah, nuclear is
already. I think it's on the way down, unfortunately.
Is it? Oh, okay. I didn't realize that because I feel like it should be used, but there's everyone's concerned about Chernobyl here.
Going back to when we're talking about electricity, actually, Mike did bring out a very good point, which is Benjamin Franklin, right? Mm-hmm. So he usually, as I was doing research on this, I was like, okay. I was researching that. Okay, I was wondering how Benjamin Franklin would be thinking about like energy, and then I forgot that actually he's the one that kind of flew the kite into the storm and tried to do the first more experiment with electricity. Mm-hmm. So he's actually most commonly people associate. He say, oh, he discovered electricity, right? But even though there's a lot of people like electricity always been like discovered, being used like a long time ago before him, but he's the first one that actually do experiment with it. And then from his result, actually, a lot of people like build on his like Michael Faraday, build on top of his result and to do more experiments, right? And actually from like he actually like what we learned from Benjamin Franklin, he actually like built like first the battery, like almost the very, very first like battery. Mm-hmm. And then he actually using like he coined the terms like battery. He actually coined the term battery and also like coined the term like positive and negative charge, right? And then also charging and discharging, right? So those are terms we're using right now. Actually, it came from Benjamin Franklin.
So he's the guy who had a 50-50 coin flip and got positive negative reversed and made it annoying. Where in like electricity, things always flow from the negative to the positive, and it's like if you would have just switched those two labels.
Yeah. So during that process, he actually came out with a very interesting theory called tenderization. Do you know what that is?
No.
Basically, he have a theory that you can actually tenderize meat by electrocuting it.
Did it work, or did it just cook it?
Yeah, I think it quite worked. He wrote in his letter, I actually cooked like 10 pounds of chicken, I electrocuted. Like a turkey, he actually was able to make it much tender. And then he came out with a theory that electricity can be used to tenderize meat. And currently, actually, that's a lot of researchers are trying to work on that to see if actually to kind of make it work, basically. So
interesting.
I mean, is there a real difference between electrocuting it, like just electrocuting it, and like slow, what would
cooking it?
Yeah, cooking it. I mean, it's like a slow cooker. If you cook a meat that's very tough in like a crock pot for 15 hours, it's very soft.
Well, that's interesting because with electricity, you could sort of distribute the heat throughout the middle, but also cook it faster, right? You wouldn't have to do it real slow, to get that even uniform thing. This actually reminds me, there is a food. There's something that's cooked by electricity in large amounts. Do y'all know what it is?
No.
All right, Japanese breadcrumbs called panko. They have like that really. You probably had them if you had like
panko chicken. Yes.
Yeah, like it's like the really crispy, crunchy.
Yeah.
That's
really
their breadcrumbs are made by just putting dough between two metal plates and running electricity through it.
Wait, is that we have a restaurant nearby called Panko Chicken, right? Is that how they make that chicken?
They probably just buy their panko. I don't think they make it. You never know. Maybe they do. But yes, that's what the name comes from, is the panko is the breadcrumbs. Pan is Japanese for bread, so it's it's very close to literally meaning breadcrumbs.
I see. That's interesting.
Interesting.
So you can
So there is food cooked via electricity.
Because of Benjamin Franklin.
I mean, I guess
his legacy. Yeah.
Food cooked with heat, pressure, and electricity.
All right. So that's going back to energy again. So we talked about fossil fuels, right? And then also but I guess, Matt, can you explain how actually electricity is generated from those fossil fuels? Like whatever the fuels you use?
Do they mostly still boil water with the heat? I think so, right? Don't they usually boil water and push the hot pressurized steam through a turbine, and the turbine turns the generator? Boom,
Exactly.
bada bang.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. So
I do have a degree in electrical engineering, so
basically, you just convert this fossil fuel into energy. I guess the water, the steam, right? And the steam turns the mechanical. Fossil fuel turn it into mechanical energy. Mechanical energy actually turn into this magnets, right? And then magnetic coils, and you generate electricity through those, right? So what is fossil fuel?
Fossil fuels are long carbon chains, hydrocarbon chains made when plants from the dinosaur era were compressed with a lot of pressure and heat over time, and then they turned into these, things like coal and oil, and they burn and release a lot of energy because they're a very dense storage of energy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, these, for example, these are plants, right? Fossil fuel, they're called fossil fuel because they are plants or animals that died around 300 million ago, right? And they were back then, actually, the whole Earth is like a swamp. So when they die, actually, the energy are actually stored in their body, and they got slow over time. They got covered by sand and clay, so they are covered. So their energy basically their body did not decay away, right? So then the body is still nice. So the energy are trapped in there. So in the fossil. So that's why right now it's called fossil fuel, right? And those are basically sometimes they turn into like coal, right? Coal, and then also sometimes they turn into like natural gas, and they get trapped into some kind of shale, right? Stuff like that. So there's a natural gas, fossil fuel, and the other one is oil, right? Oil is one of those two. They basically turn into those fossil. So we are basically burning energy our ancestors from like 300 million years ago, basically. So that's what fossil fuels are.
And, those plants got the energy from the sun. So sometimes people like to be clever and say oil is solar power, just, delayed by a few 100 million years.
Yeah. So what do you mean by 300 delayed by a few 100 million years?
Like the sun gave energy to the plants, which then died and became oil over hundreds of millions of years, and then we're burning it. So it's solar power technically.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. You say it just take a long time. It's not renewable. It take a long time to cycle, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it does make sense. So, but where does the sun get the energy from now?
The sun gets energy from fusion because lead is the most stable atom. I'm pretty sure it's lead. So anything that's lighter than lead wants to fuse and will fuse and release energy. And anything heavier than lead wants to have fission happen where like protons and neutrons shoot out of the nucleus and again releases energy. And then I think lead's the lowest energy state atom. Mike's nodding, so I think he's in agreement with me.
I'm in agreement with that, yes.
So in the far future, we'll have a universe that's mostly lead, maybe.
Cold and dead universe of lead.
Cold, dead lead.
So I guess in the whole, going back to the fossil fuel, basically in the whole Earth is powered by the sun, right?
Correct.
So we got all, because the energy cannot be created or not destroyed, right? So we basically the Earth get the energy basically from the sun, back in the day and still getting it right now. Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay. But how does plants get their energy from the sun though?
Oh my gosh, we're going all over. We need, we can't just summarize all grade school science right now. Okay, we need to pick a topic, Shu.
Okay, all right. Sorry. That's good. So, okay, so fossil fuels, right? So, I guess, of course, they are very bad for the environment, right? And they are not renewable, sustainable, right? Because we eventually going to be ran out.
Yes, both true statements. Yeah,
I guess one thing is that's why people are proposing nuclear energy.
Right. I have a question. Are you familiar with the books Freakonomics?
Yeah,
I've heard of it. I never read it.
Okay, so one of the more interesting case studies they present in one of the three books is basically saying, this is from 15 years ago, so it's going to be very superficial, my description, but essentially they claimed that, as part of global warming, we've seen the temperature go up, incrementally over the course of, the century or whatever, century and a half since the Industrial Revolution. And basically they talk about how there was a volcanic eruption that spewed when you say fossil fuels are bad for the environment, there's cases of oil spills and stuff like that have damaged animal habitats, and that's one aspect. But the other aspect is obviously the buildup of CO2 in the ozone, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially, after this volcanic eruption, they claim in this particular case study that essentially it undid, due to some chemical composition that I guess, I don't know if it neutralized the ozone or what the case may be, but it essentially undid decades of global warming or climate change. So
how did it do it?
Well, that's what. So, I'm bringing this up. I wish I had actually gone back, but it didn't occur to me till you mentioned energy, the fossil fuels specifically being bad for the environment. But I assume there was some. I have to assume there was some type of molecule in unleashed into the atmosphere that may have had some type of neutralizing effect or something like that.
A potential, if we're talking about undoing global warming specifically, right?
Yeah.
Well, one thing is, I know you can have sort of these winters created by when a large volcano explodes and releases ash and stuff in the atmosphere that blocks light from the sun from getting to the earth. So is it that, maybe there's a chemical that neutralized CO2. I wasn't aware of anything like that, but could it also have just been that it literally reduced the heat by blocking sunlight? And that would be how it undid some effect of global warming?
That's certainly a possibility. I was going to try to quickly Google this, but I don't want to just leave the podcast.
So when they talk about CO2, why is CO2 bad for the environment? Why is it?
Well, CO2 is not toxic or anything, but it's a greenhouse gas. So what it does is it makes the earth trap heat more effectively. So normally, heat, the sunlight, hits the earth and a certain portion of heat and light bounces out and leaves. So yeah, basically greenhouse effect, like a greenhouse you have in your backyard, it traps the heat in, making the earth rise. Of course, I say in the atmosphere, it doesn't seem to be that bad. It's not at a high level to hurt humans, plants need it. We want some, but the ocean absorbs CO2 and apparently it's making the ocean kind of acidic over time as it's starting to absorb more and more CO2. So actually, I think in the past, they thought global warming would happen much faster. Mm-hmm. And then they realized okay, based on, because they were assuming I think they were assuming the CO2 we were emitting would be largely left in the atmosphere, but now they realize the ocean's acting as a carbon sink more than they thought, which is good in terms of delaying climate change becoming a mass apocalyptic event, but it's bad in terms of us potentially making the oceans acidic and toxic, which would be very bad.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Sorry,
Alright.
I just wanted to clarify. So, they actually, because of course, global warming is such a political issue, and people, anytime there's a solution proposed that isn't just totally cutting the use of fossil fuels or anything like that, there's a big outcry. So they actually have a response to people specifically about this one chapter on their website that's prominently featured. So their solution, I guess, are one of their they say the most controversial of these solutions, a stratoshield, involves the controlled injection of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere to cool ground temperatures, which mimics the natural cooling effects of a big volcanic eruption like Mount Pinatubo. This sort of geoengineering solution is intensely disliked within environmental circles, and we discuss the reasons why. And we discuss why, if global warming gets worse, it might still be a good idea to consider further research on the stratoshield. So, I guess I think they do sort of are talking about something like Matt might say that's something that essentially is put into the stratosphere to shield sunlight slightly in order as a means of lowering ground temperatures to prevent the melting.
that's very good.
Yeah.
And you can also instead of putting the stratosphere, you just put solar panels on top of the stratosphere, right, to harvest the energy so you don't waste the sunlight, right?
Yes, that's an Elon Musk solution.
If you guys, come on. Y'all are engineers too. If you used a solar panel, once you used electricity, it would just become heat anyway on the earth. So you wouldn't have fixed anything. But yeah, so there's two ways people talk about blocking light, and one's the chemicals in the atmosphere, which I think makes a lot of people nervous because they're like, there's a lot of ways this could go really wrong.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to really know for sure it's going to work. Another one is kind of what Shu said. People have talked about basically floating a bunch of satellites with mirrors out in space between the Earth and the sun and, reflecting 5% of the sunlight off into other parts of the universe. And then boom, 5% cooler. This is, you laugh, but this is something people have seriously proposed. Those are they're basically two ways to do the same thing. They're like, oh shit, the Earth now holds on to heat more. So we just block some sunlight and, balance it back out.
Yeah, very, very engineering solutions instead of solving the root cause.
Yeah,
that's right.
So talking about root cause, I guess nuclear energy have been proposing as one of the best alternative to fossil fuel, right? All right. Sure. So what is nuclear power?
What is nuclear power?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Nuclear power is fission, the opposite of fusion. Heavy elements release protons and neutrons, and that's a very energetic reaction. A lot of heat gets produced. The heat heats water, whatever. That's not important. What is important is that nuclear power is competitive for the safest and cleanest energy source in the entire world when you look at the stats, even including Chernobyl, when the Soviets basically just fucked everything up. Nuclear has released less radiation to the environment than coal. And even if you want to say, oh, but coal's been used for more power, even per watt of energy generated, including the Chernobyl disaster, coal has released more radiation per watt of energy. It's cleaner, it's safer. If we had kept building nuclear power plants from the 70s on as fast as we did for a few decades, we'd basically have a carbon-free power grid. This would be it. We wouldn't really care about this problem. If we had built enough nuclear plants 30, 40 years ago, we'd have basically nearly free, clean energy. Boom. Okay, we'd still have cars, but we'd probably have electric cars would probably be more popular because we'd be we have all this electricity to use. Let's, use it for other things. Even if it's not as efficient in other things as fossil fuels are for them yet.
You're talking about radiation is not much, but radiation kill people, right? Coal doesn't kill people.
Coal does kill people. The pollution from coal kills lots of people every year.
Nobody noticed.
Nobody noticed. It's more subtle, right? But the lung, when scientists have tried to estimate the things like lung cancer and asthma and stuff that people die from, and they can see areas around where like coal plants put out this pollution to the atmosphere, and they can see the increase in these sort of diseases and the number of deaths they cause and, associate them. It's not an exact science. There's some estimating, but even conservative estimates put coal as far more lethal than nuclear. And basically, okay, let's go through the biggest 3 nuclear disasters, okay? Chernobyl, number 1. Obviously, Soviets, they sucked. Then you have basically Fukushima and 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island in the U.S. definitely didn't kill anyone, and I'm not sure if anyone's died from Fukushima. I think maybe one old person in the area they thought maybe got a cancer related to it like a few years later. I'm not sure. I don't know if they've confirmed anyone dying from Fukushima. And again, those are the second and third worst nuclear disasters.
What about the hills have eyes, Matt?
Sorry, what?
What about the hills have eyes?
The hills have eyes.
Documentary of
the documentary. Okay. So I mean, there's a good, what's the name? Kurzweil or something? There's like a YouTube that does science things, and they did a really good episode on this. And they talked in detail about the studies of this. And basically, nuclear is cleaner and far less lethal than any fossil fuel.
But it's very, I mean, you say it's cleaner, but it's not really clean, right? You have to dispose of the nuclear waste, which is a pain in the ass, right?
It's not that big of a deal for a few reasons. Okay. So 1, there's not that much. Like all the nuclear waste that's ever been generated in the US can like fit in like a football field or something like that, stacked a few feet high or something. Like we're talking about decades. Like it's just not that much. Okay. 2, there's nuclear waste sort of has, well, when you think about what nuclear materials are, they can either be very dangerous or they can last a long time, but they can't do both, right? Because when something's radioactive, it's literally the atoms are decaying. So they're literally emitting things out. Every time an atom decays in like a bar of uranium, that atom no longer can ever decay again. Like it's done. It released its thing. It released the energy and the radiation. It's over. So things that are highly radioactive don't stay highly radioactive for very long. So they kind of become more inert quickly. Things that are like a little bit like the things that are like, oh, we have to store this nuclear waste for thousands of years. I mean, sure, I guess, but they're not very radioactive, right? Like 1,000 years in, it's very, very weakly radioactive. Not that you'd want to go bathe in it or anything, but it's not some like major disaster waiting to happen. I mean, so it's not like a total non-issue, but compared to pumping out pollution and CO2 from like coal plants, it's like ridiculously a non-issue.
Okay.
Like, it's like your legs cut off and then someone wants to, give you a shot in your arm with some antibiotics, and you're like, this syringe hole might make me bleed out. And they're like, that's almost nothing. It's just like a non-issue. There's like things that are so much more important, and this can help, to give you some fluids and stuff or whatever. I mean, I don't know. There's a dumb analogy, but you get the point.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb. But I mean, coal, you're talking about coal is still kill people, but natural gas doesn't, right? Natural gas is still good, fossil fuel.
It's better. It's much cleaner.
Yeah.
And I think it does less CO2 and other greenhouse gases per watt. So it's better. Like it's an improvement and it's good. So the U.S. has had a big decrease in coal, mostly due to natural gas replacing it, which is not bad as a short-term thing, but the long-term issue of climate change is still not solved by natural gas, right? Because natural gas still burns and releases CO2.
Okay. Now, what about nuclear power because one of the reasons that you're saying that there's haven't been happening a lot of accidents and they don't kill many people anyway, because we don't have a lot of nuclear power, right? Power plants. What happens in the future if we have a lot of nuclear power plants? Don't we increase the probability of one's going to fail? Like, going to have like more accidents, basically?
I mean, that is true, yes. Like in a sense that the higher the number, the more chance you have. But like most of our plants, first of all, we do have a decent number. They're just old, right? Like we built a decent amount decades ago, and they've said how many plants are in the U.S. I'm going to look this up.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I think Matt's answer would probably be yes. As you increase the number, the likelihood of them failing also increases, or the likelihood of one failing also increases. But I mean, basically, overall, like each individual plant is going to be very, very safe and produce very, very little waste. And you're replacing entities like sources of energy that we know produce damaging, like something damaging to the environment. So it's like, we know we're getting rid of, like, we know we're reducing negatives on all fronts. So the risk of like one failing, like that remains small enough where it still would be worth it.
So I just double check. So right now we have about 100 reactors at roughly 60 plants in the US. And again, most of these have been for decades. Like, I don't think there's been a new nuclear plant finish in a while, if I remember reading that right. But my main point is like with the technology we have, plants were already safe when they were built in like the 70s. With the technology we have now, we can make them perfectly safe. You can make passive systems where even if power is cut off and the whole thing shuts down, like the process stops. Like the reactor's designed that if you just hands off to do everything, they stop the fission. I've seen things like they can do things where they drop like bars that go between some of the fuel rods and like block the reaction and stop it. Mm-hmm. And so they'll do designs where basically these hang overhead. And if you're not actively using power to keep them, they'll just fall and then they'll stop the reactor from basically going. They'll stop the process. Mm-hmm. And there's a very simplified explanation, but essentially you make this sort of passive system that is almost fail safe. Obviously you can never be truly, completely fail safe, but it's just not a big risk.
But is it a risk worth taking though?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Now what about the other things because you're producing uranium, right? And I guess using uranium but what about like terrorist attacks or terrorists, right? Because this nuclear weapon can be used as nuclear power. Like the stuff you're producing can be used as nuclear weapons, right? What about that?
I mean, you don't just sell it to Russia. Like, I don't know. Is it that hard? Like, we've done it successfully, not let terrorists get important nuclear, stuff for decades now. Just keep doing that.
Why are you talking about Russia? Russia has their own nuclear weapons, so they don't need.
I don't know. Okay. Sell it to whatever, terrorist organization wants to try to do a dirty bomb or something. It's not like you can make a nuclear weapon out of nuclear waste, right? Like the stuff that comes out of power plants. I mean, these are details, but like depending on the type of reactor, the waste that comes out generally cannot be turned into a bomb, like a nuclear bomb. Like you can't make a nuke. But you could potentially make a dirty bomb where you just explode like regular explosives like C4. And if you had some nuclear waste, then you spread out this like radioactive material in the air, and that could hurt a lot of people. And definitely make a, bad case terrorist attack. So it's not like nothing, but, it's not like they're going to level the entire city of New York with, the output of a power plant.
Well, I mean, if you got a lot more people like investing in nuclear power, the technology is going to improve, right? And then maybe in the future, it might be easier to make the uraniums, right? To produce the uranium, actually, maybe it would be easier for people because if everybody have pour money into it, it will improve in the future. It might be easier for terrorists, for anyone to actually create a nuclear bomb.
Well, it depends a lot on the technology, right? Like the people have talked about, there's something called thorium reactors, which is like a different type. I mean, it's basically, I don't know a lot of details, but it's basically uses thorium instead of uranium. And as far as I know, like it's just, you can't make a weapon out of it, period. And there's other potential advantages, including the fact that there's way more thorium around. So like if the technology goes in a direction like that, then maybe you actually make it less likely that anyone will be able to get a weapon from it because you've replaced what was dangerous technology with safe technology.
How realistic, how dangerous is it for people to blow up a nuclear power plant? Like if terrorists try to attack it, like I don't know, fly a plane through it or something, Is it gonna be a big disaster if that happens?
I don't think so. Well, me and you went into SATSUP, right? The Washington one, remember?
Yeah.
Imagine a plane flying into that. I don't think it would have hurt the reactor at all. They have so many layers and deep. It was so many layers deep in the earth, huge concrete walls. Like honestly, I think it would have been Like I think the reactor would have been fine if they flew a plane into it. Like,
Gotcha.
so I mean the difficulty of attacking it.
Well, I guess it just sounds very dangerous, I guess, to a lot of people, right? If, for example, if someone maybe in some, I don't know, some terrorists like infiltrate the nuclear power plant, right? Or someone work there and they want to, instead of having machine gun down, people in a room, they just walk into a nuclear power plant and then blow the whole thing up, right?
Like I said, what do you mean just blow the whole thing up? These things have even if
I don't know.
They spend like a day loading hundreds of pounds of explosives across the whole plant and no one does anything. And then they have some major simultaneous detonation. Like these are not realistic concerns. Like this is such an outlandish scenario. And it's like, oh, but what if this crazy hypothetical happens and they manage to blow this up? Well, what if, we don't use the clean source of energy and we keep, destroying the planet? Like, that's the bigger concern because it's what's actually happening, not some episode of Mission Impossible.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I think, so nuclear power, I thought you were, I don't know why you're so excited about nuclear power, because I thought you were very into solar power. So, because now these fossil fuels, they are limited, right? Eventually we're going to run out of fossil fuels, right? And then also nuclear, you get you need to mine. I think there's a field that you need to mine to do the fission, right? To get the nuclear power, but that also resource can run out in the future, right? So why are you so excited about nuclear power instead of solar power, which can be infinite, right?
Well, I'm excited for both. Now, nuclear, especially when you get to things like thorium and potentially other materials, we basically have enough to run for power we have enough to provide enough electricity for thousands of years, to the point where it's not really relevant. It's limited, yes, technically, but I mean, technically the solar power is limited too, right? The sun's going to eventually blow up and stop shining, right? But so there's a scale of time where it doesn't really matter. But they're both great. They should both be used, and they're nicely complementary in the sense that nuclear is a good baseline, right? So it provides a very stable baseline of power, and solar is more flexible, cheaper to get into specific places and to supplement quickly. And I mean, I could be biased from living in the South, but generally people use more power in the day. This is actually true almost everywhere. They use more power in the day, even when it's colder, just because that's when people are up doing things, running things. Maybe in the far north when you need to heat at night during the winter, that switches around. But it's very common for power usage to be up during the day, which is when solar power is most effective. So you could imagine a system where nuclear provides a base and solar provides supplement that naturally, without really any special effort, kind of follows the demand curve of people fairly well. So, along with just a little bit of extra battery storage and stuff, you now have a complete power system that can deal with human activity. In theory, you could do just things like wind and solar and be good. And that might be what we end up doing, because there's still so much resistance to nuclear and it takes a while to build up. It's not clear if it really will end up being a solution. But if we don't have it, we need way more energy storage, way more battery storage, and we need way more solar and wind in the first place. So, we're talking about tripling the amount of, solar and wind, so we can have enough excess that we can then store it in different battery or energy storage systems. And then those storage systems can be used during the night, during, times when the sun doesn't shine, times when the wind isn't blowing, etc.
So, yeah, that sounds all good, but why is solar energy is not very widely adopted now?
I mean, I guess I feel like it's starting to be widely adopted is the first thing I would say. I mean, obviously it's still less than things like nuclear or fossil fuels, but it's really cost to power, right? But the good news is, I mean, people have been tracking the price to get some amount of solar panels that generate so much power. And it's been the power you get for dollar you spend has been going exponentially increasing over the last 10, 20 years from solar. So I think a lot of people are looking at that trend and saying, as long as this continues more or less, it won't be long before solar becomes the cheapest power source. And it'll still be unreliable, which causes other issues. But if it's clearly the cheapest power source, that changes the game, right? Like, as that happens, you would expect solar to really start to overtake the market and become a major provider, perhaps the biggest provider of power.
Why is it unreliable?
The sun doesn't always shine.
Yeah, but you don't need the sun to be always shine. You can just, whenever it's shining, you can just store the energy already, right?
Yeah, but it's still unreliable, right? So you're storing power to save for when it's unreliable, but it's still unreliable. Like, that's what people, in the energy context, this is what people mean. Like, something like fossil fuels and nuclear power, you can run 24/7 all the time, no matter the weather, no matter the time of day. But things like solar, you have to have storage, which creates extra cost if this is what you want to be like your main power system, right? If you're trying to power a city by solar, you can't just build solar panels. You need the storage.
Okay. So I guess, do you know what's the efficiency? So for example, you have sunlight and it's shining on a solar panel, right? What's the efficiency of converting that energy into electricity? Is it like 20%, 30%? I know it's probably not 100%, right?
Yeah, I thought it was in the 20s or like around 20.
Okay.
And a quick Google says most panels are between 50 and 20%. Yeah, so I think that's the, order roughly. We can say 20 slightly optimistically, and that could improve over the future, but it's not going to, I don't think it'll ever be like 80% or anything, right? There's just physical limitations, but.
Yeah, over the last few years, like last 5 years, actually solar has becoming more adopted, and it became it actually produced like 2% of the energy in the US right now being used. Only 2% right now, but I think there's a lot of potential that it can go even more, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was just going to say, just based on like walking around, I'll say like during the pandemic, walking around and like looking at new construction, like a lot of new construction is incorporating solar panels into it.
Nice. So go ahead.
Yeah. So there's going to be like the technology is continuing to improve. So that's one factor. Two, there's the economy of scale. As solar becomes like a major provider, it's going to get cheaper just to manufacture, just because you have more large scale solar panel factories and stuff set up. And three, I think climate change is becoming a bigger deal in culture over time. Like, it's becoming a larger focus. And more Americans, slowly but surely, more Americans are saying like it's a concern. And I think solar is a very much like a well-viewed solution. Like, I don't think there's much criticism of solar. So even if it's not the most economic thing, I think kind of what Mike said, like big companies might throw solar panels on their building, that their new headquarters, just to look green and friendly, right? But that helps.
Yeah, so it sounds like if I'm gonna invest money into like either nuclear or solar, it sounds like solar is no brainer, right?
That's the one I invested in. I agree. There's a difference between what I think we should do and what I think will happen, all right? Those are not the same things. What should we do? Build more nuclear? Yes. Will I think there will be a lot of more nuclear? I'm less confident. Much more confident about solar.
I mean, even though based on what you say, I'm still like we should just, even though for me, I feel like we still should just go all in on solar, right? Because the nuclear power, it costs a lot of money to build the power plants and maintain it over time. There's a lot of cost, right? And how much benefit you get, you're not sure, right? And also on top of that, you have all these like dangers, the risks, right? So, I mean, sounds like at least personal to me, solar is way much better than we should just go all in for solar instead of putting any money into nuclear.
Yeah. So you're forgetting the baseline problem. You can't go all in on solar because there is not a technology to store the energy effectively right now. There's a lot of companies researching new battery technology and other energy storage stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a cool one where they take cranes and they stack these big cement, basically concrete blocks. Think like massive concrete Legos. And they'll have like a tower with several electric cranes, right? So they'll spend energy to stack them up. And then when they want to get energy back out, the crane picks it up and then just slowly lowers it while the weight of that basically reverses the motor generator and uses it to power it. So it's storing the energy as potential energy of these massive concrete blocks. Very interesting stuff. But as of now, none of those, as far as I know, none of those businesses have really done like a large scale, proven, highly successful. So you couldn't go to mass solar because there's no way to store the energy to power things at night currently. What would happen currently is fossil fuels would come in as that baseline reliable you can generate whenever you need. But if you want to replace fossil fuels entirely, you need a baseline, which is, again, nuclear is an option. New storage technology is an option. We just don't have it yet. Nuclear is a technology we do have.
Okay. Sounds good. That makes sense. That's good. Good point. But talking about battery storage, do you know which company has the best battery technology currently?
Tesla. Yeah, Tesla's got the solar panels thing. Tesla. And so they might be the closest, but I don't, like, even what Tesla used, it was like, wasn't it for like short term? They did some tests in Australia, I think, right? But was it, I think it was more like very short term. I don't know. I don't know if the things they set up would be adequate to like power a city for a day or two.
Not right now, but just think about it. Even though a lot of people say Tesla and the companies being overvalued right now, which is probably true. However, if you take into turn in the future, maybe it would not be a car company anymore. It would basically be an energy company, right?
Could be.
You're going to be a store on the solar energy and then just be a battery company. I mean, Tesla bought a solar city a while ago, like 5 years ago, right? So what are they going to do with it, right? So they probably going to do that. And at the same time, also they have the perfect, very good battery technology. So I guess the lesson today is just buy more Tesla, I guess.
Buy more Tesla stock. Let's see. We should have a weekly section that's just we check the Tesla stock price. Oh, it's down. It's under 600. Wow. Exactly. What a steal.
I know. Buy it now.
Oh my gosh. We're going to get this value.
So do you know who one of the person that Elon Musk admire a lot and study a lot? And
Benjamin Franklin?
Exactly. I think one of the reasons
back.
What?
I said it all comes back.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons because Benjamin Franklin actually built the first battery, almost like, right? So the earliest battery. So I think, anyway, that's my assumption right now. I was like, whoa. Yeah, when I find out about like Benjamin Franklin building the first battery, I said, oh, that could be one of the reasons why Elon Musk liked Benjamin Franklin a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. To go tangential for a little bit, Don, I think a lot of the new energy storage technology is pretty interesting. Because, like, I would be surprised if just, like, the solid-state chemical batteries we have now are the solution we end up using, right? Like, I mean, obviously batteries are fine for your phone, but for, like, the sort of mass, large-scale storage, like, is that really the best solution? I thought storing it as potential energy is really cool because, I mean, obviously you'll always lose it when you convert back to electricity, but potential energy never goes away, right? That's, like, perfect storage. I've seen stuff with like large scale liquid batteries. So you have these giant like vats, that function as a battery rather than like a single solid thing. I've even seen one that try to store it as like heat. Like there's been things that they make like super well insulated things and just like store the heat and then say like, that's like a battery, which over a few days might just be fine. Right. There's a lot of interesting tech there. We'll see. It's cool because a bunch of companies are trying stuff, which is a perfect way to have someone hopefully find a really good solution.
Yeah, I think some company are using nanotechnology to create like better batteries, right? So those has a lot of potential as well.
Yeah,
I don't know how they do it, but it sounds cool. So we're talking about nucleus fission, right? What about fusion reactors?
Fusion. I mean, it'd be cool. It's just so difficult to do. We don't have the technology to make it like we have the technology to create fusion, but not on a sort of scale and efficiency that we could actually use it for power generation, right? Because I mean, these things essentially use, like if you look at how fusion plants have been built, they basically have these massive superconductors that have to be cooled to like nearly zero, like Kelvin. And then, to create these huge magnetic fields that the magnetic fields keep like this extremely hot plasma in place, and then it's kind of like a mini sun.
Yeah.
But like the technology and it's just ridiculous what you have to do to make it work.
Okay. Yeah, that's just something, because I was reading about sun. We are getting our energy from sun. I was like, why can't we just create a fusion and same process on Earth, right? A mini sun in a way. But anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, the problem is the fusion seems to happen at temperatures and pressures that vastly exceed anything that happened on Earth. So we have to create that environment and then control it and then collect more energy than it took to create that ridiculous environment. All of this is very difficult.
Okay. All right. I think that's pretty good from my side on energy. I hope you guys enjoying that. Anyway, so personally for me, actually, I don't know anything about like energy and fossil fuel before I did some research for this episode, like this meeting. So I actually found it much more interesting now, because I had no idea. I always have been wondering, like, why do they call it fossil fuel, right? And then I was reading, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Now it's just like 300 million ago, this became fossil, and you're just burning it right now. And like just basically converting sun energy we are burning the sun energy again, like releasing it, right? So everything is by just basically everything we do right now, getting energy, just burning stuff, right? Like burning oil to get our car moving and stuff, right? Anyway, and then just made me more, I guess, understandable of how the world works a little bit better. So after the research, so
that's good.
I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just said that's good.
Yeah. And that's the purpose of this Junto Club, I guess.
Junto Club.